Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. James VI and I.
James VI and I was King of Scotland as James VI from the 24th of July 1567 and King of England and Ireland as James I from the union of the Scottish and English crowns on the 24th of March 1603 until his death. The kingdoms of Scotland and England were individual sovereign states, with their own parliaments, judiciary, and laws. Though both were ruled by James in personal union, James was the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and a great-great-grandson of Henry VII, King of England and Lord of Ireland, positioning him to eventually accede to all three thrones. James succeeded to the Scottish throne at the age of 13 months, after his mother Mary was compelled to abdicate in his favour.
4 different regents governed during his minority, which ended officially in 1578. Though he did not gain full control of his government until 1583. In 1603, he succeeded the last Tudor monarch of England and Ireland, Elizabeth I, who died without issue. He continued to reign in all three kingdoms for 22 years, a period known after him as the Jacobean era, until his death in 1625 at the age of 58.
After the union of the crowns, he based himself in England from 1603, only returning to Scotland once in 1617, and styled himself King of Great Britain and Ireland. He was a major advocate of a single parliament for England and Scotland. In his reign, the plantation of Ulster and British colonisation of the Americas began. At 57 years and 246 days, James' reign in Scotland was longer than those of any of his predecessors.
He achieved most of his aims in Scotland, but faced great difficulties in England, including the Gunpowder Plot in 1605 and repeated conflicts with the English Parliament. Under James, the Golden Age of Elizabethan literature and drama continued, with writers such as William Shakespeare, John Donne, Ben Jonson, and Sir Francis Bacon contributing to a flourishing literary culture.
James himself was a talented scholar, the author of works such as Demonology, The True Law of Free Monarchies, and Basilicon Doran. He sponsored the translation of the Bible that would later be named after him, the Authorized King James Version. Sir Anthony Weldon claimed that James had been termed the wisest fool in Christendom, an epithet associated with his character ever since.
Since the latter half of the 20th century, historians have tended to revise James' reputation and treat him as a serious and thoughtful monarch.
Birth. James was the only son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and her second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. Both Mary and Darnley were great-grandchildren of Henry VII of England through Margaret Tudor, the older sister of Henry VIII. Mary's rule over Scotland was insecure, and she and her husband, being Roman Catholics, faced a rebellion by Protestant noblemen. During Mary's and Darnley's difficult marriage, Darnley secretly allied himself with the rebels and conspired in the murder of the Queen's private secretary, David Rizzio. Just 3 months before James' birth, James was born on the 19th of June 1566 at Edinburgh Castle, and as the eldest son and heir apparent of the monarch automatically became Duke of Rothesay and Prince and Great Steward of Scotland. He was baptised Charles James or James Charles on the 17th of December 1566 in a Catholic ceremony held at Stirling Castle.
His godparents were Charles IX of France, Elizabeth I of England, and Emmanuel Philibert, Duke of Savoy. Mary refused to let the Archbishop of St Andrews, whom she referred to as A pocky priest spit in the child's mouth, as was then the custom. The subsequent entertainment, devised by Frenchman Bastien Pages, featured men dressed as satyrs and sporting tales, to which the English guests took offence, thinking the satyrs done against them. James's father, Darnley, was murdered on 10 February 1567 at Kirkhofield, Edinburgh, perhaps in revenge for the killing of Rizzio. James inherited his father's titles of Duke of Albany and Earl of Ross.
Mary was already unpopular, and her marriage on 15 May 1567 to James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell, who was widely suspected of murdering Darnley, heightened widespread bad feeling towards her. In June 1567, Protestant rebels arrested Mary and imprisoned her in Loch Leven Castle. She never saw her son again. She was forced to abdicate on 24 July 1567 in favour of the infant James and to appoint her illegitimate half-brother, James Stuart, Earl of Moray, as regent. Regencies. The care of James was entrusted to the Earl and Countess of Mar, to be conserved, nursed, and upbrought in the security of Stirling Castle. James was anointed King of Scots at the age of 13 months at the Church of the Holy Rood, Stirling, by Adam Bothwell, Bishop of Orkney, on 29 July 1567. The sermon at the coronation was preached by John Knox, in accordance with the religious beliefs of most of the Scottish ruling class. James was brought up as a member of the Protestant Church of Scotland. The Privy Council selected George Buchanan, Peter Young, Adam Erskine, and David Erskine as James preceptors or tutors. As the young king's tutor, Buchanan subjected James to regular beatings, but also instilled in him a lifelong passion for literature and learning. Buchanan sought to turn James into a God-fearing Protestant king who accepted the limitations of monarchy, as outlined in his treatise De Jure Regni Apud Scotos. In 1568, Mary escaped from her imprisonment at Loch Leven Castle, leading to several years of sporadic violence. The Earl of Moray defeated Mary's troops at the Battle of Langside, forcing her to flee to England, where she was subsequently kept in confinement by Elizabeth. On 23 January 1570, Moray was assassinated by James Hamilton of Bothwell Hall. The next regent was James's paternal grandfather Matthew Stuart, 4th Earl of Lennox, who was carried fatally wounded into Stirling Castle a year later after a raid by Mary's supporters. His successor, the Earl of Mar, took a vehement sickness and died on 28 October 1572 at Stirling. Mar's illness, wrote James Melville, followed a banquet at Dalkeith Palace given by James Douglas, 4th Earl of Morton. Morton was elected to Mar's office, and proved in many ways the most effective of James regents, but he made enemies by his rapacity. He fell from favour when Frenchman Esme Stuart, Sieur d'Aubigny, first cousin of James' father Lord Darnley and future Earl of Lennox, arrived in Scotland, and quickly established himself as the first of James' powerful favourites. Morton was executed on 2 June 1581, belatedly charged with complicity in Darnley's murder. On 8 August, James made Lennox the only duke in Scotland. The king, then 15 years old, remained under the influence of Lennox for about one more year. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.